I'm Sue Maslin and I'm a screen producer. And I use the word screen because for the last 35 years I've been working across all screens: film, television, digital, even mobile phone. And for me, as a producer, it's immaterial which screen it is, because at the end of the day, it's about hopefully connecting powerful ideas to people. And that's what keeps me really, really excited about working in the screen industry. I'm also president of the Natalie Miller Fellowship, and I was a founding member of Women in Film and Television back in 1988. So very, very excited to be here today. There's some advice I wish I was given when I was starting out in the early days as a filmmaker and then subsequently as a producer. And the first rule is you're not doing it alone. You're making work in creative collaborations and collaborations with your team and your crew and so on. And as a producer, you can often feel really alone and carrying a huge burden: the financial burden, the legal burden, the burden of will it be good enough, will it get made, will it be on budget, on schedule, all of those things. So I think it's really important to remember that you're part of a team and you're part of a collaboration. And your job really is to be a champion for that collaboration. And I think the other thing I wish I was told was the high personal cost that it would enact on your relationships and on your own mental well-being. And it hasn't been until very, very recently that we've talked openly about those kind of things, because there's a lot of stress in this business. There's a lot of anxiety that you carry with you through the different projects you're working on. There's certainly a lot of rejection, and you have to get used to that and never ever take it personally. I think the most important advice that I can offer WIFT members in relation to leadership is actually not be fearful of it and take it seriously in relation to your own career trajectory and your own ambitions, creatively, professionally, business or otherwise. I think for too long as women, we've not taken that part of our work seriously. And we've tended to go from project to project, opportunity to opportunity, job to job. And we've not ever really thought deeply or seriously enough about taking charge of what that trajectory might look like. And that's where leadership comes in. Because at the end of the day, we are all leaders in a myriad of different ways in our lives. Leadership is nothing more complicated, really, than making a difference, having an idea about what that difference could be, and bringing people with you in achieving that difference. And we all do it. So by naming it and owning it for ourselves actually can open up a number of opportunities that will actually benefit us over the longer term in relation to our career. The thing about WIFT is that it encourages women to take charge, to not just think, well, that's the way things are, I've got to accept that, but to actually know that you can there's a forum that's safe to raise these things and then to bring others with you and to make a difference. It comes down to making a difference. That's what leadership is. Women in Film and Television in Victoria came about in part because I moved from Sydney to Melbourne back in 1987. I didn't know a soul, and I had been a member or been involved with WIFT in Sydney in my time up there, and I thought, well, maybe that would be a way to find others in the industry and make some introductions. And so I started asking around, and it didn't exist. So there was a few people who said, hey, that's actually quite a good idea. Why don't we just get together and get it going here in Melbourne? So a group of us started meeting and realised pretty quickly there were a whole bunch of women who were really, really interested in getting together and networking and actually doing something about raising the profile of women in film and television in Melbourne. So back in the early days, we were operating in the absence of any social media, any computers, any internet. So when we talk about networking, it was serious networking, like it was in person. We would have a regular event once a month, usually in a pub, and it was in part a social event. There was an information aspect to it, and then there was a networking aspect to it at each one of those events. The other thing that we didn't have was email. So it meant when we wanted to let people know about what we were doing, we literally did a physical newsletter. We would photocopy it. I would personally lay up images, and then with somebody who did a bit of computer layout, we would probably put together about an 8-page newsletter by hand, and then we would collate it by hand, and we would post it to over 200 or 300 members by hand. So what that meant was a lot of sitting around the table, a lot of stamps, envelopes, and physical networking just to keep the activities and the information flowing. There were a lot of relationships that were built at that time, and those relationships I still treasure, I still have. They're still very important to me. And it's meant that amongst women, particularly in those early days, we've always just picked up the phone and asked each other. I still regularly ask for help. I still give advice and give help. It's just ingrained in our DNA, and it comes from those early days of building the relationships. So I really value the fact that those networks have stood the test of time, and a lot of us, we still meet. There's a group of us called Ladies Who Lunch, who are from those early days, and we still meet for lunch and talk to each other and give each other advice when we need it. The fundamental mission of really advancing women's professional development and career opportunities and improving the gender parity of women both behind the screen as well as on screen remains the same, and I'm really proud that it stood the test of time. I hope one day that there'll be so much gender parity that WIFT will be twiddling its thumbs and wondering what next. But at the moment, we still have a long way to go. I think the most important thing that WIFT Victoria does and continues to do is actually be flexible and iterative and responsive to the needs of its members. That's the key to its success. That's why it's still running, 40 years after we set it up. And it means that as an organisation, by following the trends, what's happening in the industry, and just routinely using the platform of WIFT to convey information, professional development opportunities, training opportunities, and most importantly, networking, will always be relevant. I really enjoy being patron of Women in Film and Television Victoria because it continues to give me an opportunity to connect with and network with younger WIFT members. So particularly, women who are emerging in their careers, and that's the thing that kind of it recharges me. It makes me really, really hopeful for the future. So I get a lot out of that, and I probably, turn up to 2 or 3 WIFT-related events each year, and I'm very happy to kind of keep doing that and just seeing where women's filmmaking is going, in the future. I would encourage any woman who isn't currently a WIFT member or has previously been a WIFT member to just get out there and join, because WIFT is an incredible network. It's a community. It's a resource, for women in this industry. And it's an industry that runs on networking. It's an industry that runs on personal contacts and your capacity to access information in a timely way. And WIFT provides all of that. So I think it's a must-have on your resume for any woman in the Australian screen industry.